chain link where we wrote what we could do to help others, ways to be kind, and what makes us special. We work together to connect the links to create a chain representing the power of unity. At the end of the day, we meet as a whole school to share our classroom chains and talk about what we wrote. We linked all the class chains together to show that EJA community is connected together to each other and will work together to stand up to bullying. Our chains hung in our school as a reminder to us all to be kind and inclusive. It also is the longest chain in Athens, New York. Community Day is a great celebration of our school community, but we need to go beyond just this one day. Each and every day we can all stand up for others and ourselves. Make sure kids are included and ask for help when we need it. We believe that together at EJA we can help unite to create a kind, safe, and inclusive school community for all. We would like to show you all the chain that our school worked so hard on yesterday. We will also take a stop in Miss Gokey's room. Follow us.
Me for a little bit of the financial impact as we review the estimate for the project, and then go over the project schedule as well. So, just giving you a little bit of historical documentation here. We did a 2016 capital project, which was the large project, if you all recall that. And then in 2019, we did a smaller capital project as well as an energy performance contract. And then in 2020, we did a building condition survey. So that's really where you'll see a lot of the bulk of the infrastructure items we're going to talk about tonight have derived. The building condition survey is something that the state education department requires every district to have completed every 5 years, and really just evaluates your buildings inside and out, your site work, roofs, parking, as well as everything inside and around your buildings. And then we did have assisting the district with several capital outlay projects as well. So over the last few years, the district's been really financially responsible and performing several capital outlay projects to advance some of this work so that it's not all waiting and lingering for a capital project that you're seeing here today. So again, where are we now? Bring this fast forward to October of last year. We kicked off the pre-referendum process here. Again, really relying on that building condition survey to help identify what are the infrastructure needs for the district. And then this is our project, or our process moving forward largely through this pre-referendum process. So we actually conducted many meetings with district administration to understand the overarching needs from an administrative level. We met with many different groups of staff and students as well to program and understand what are the programmatic needs or facilities needs that are being seen from the actual building users in the district. Throughout this entire process, we were meeting obviously with the facilities committee. So regular meetings, I think we started monthly, went to bi-weekly. We might have been here a couple times a week at one point, but regular meetings throughout that process. So that really what we were developing is a very large list of potential items for inclusion, and then prioritizing and working our way through that list to what the facilities committee and now the board feels is the appropriate project to propose to the voters at this time. So working towards this evening and developing that resolution to vote for your vote upcoming in December. So we'll take a look at the proposed project scope. We have several different categories, 5 categories: health and safety, academic and program, physical education and athletics, infrastructure, and site work. So I'll overview some of the scope that is in, or all of the scope that are in these different categories. Under health and safety, we break everything down by building. At the middle school and high school, we're adding card access to the remaining exterior doors where it currently does not exist. At the elementary school, at the main campus, we're replacing some door hardware for ADA accessibility, as well as adding card access at that building. And then here at E.J. Arthur, again, providing some hardware replacement of your main vestibule that has some security concerns, as well as providing additional card access at this building. Under the academic and program category, at the middle school, high school, we're renovating 3 high school science classrooms, inclusive of prep room and storage rooms. You'll see a couple photos of that in a little bit. Adding air conditioning to those spaces while we are renovating them to provide greater student comfort in those spaces. Providing a building addition for a fitness center and public restrooms for field use and public events on the main campus. And then providing a wellness suite, and you'll see a little bit more about that in a moment as well. At Coxsackie Elementary School, renovations to the kitchen here for aging equipment that is failing, as well as floors and ceilings. Renovation of the second floor classrooms at Coxsackie Elementary, that would be all of the classrooms on the second floor, and adding air conditioning to those spaces as well. And then the same scope here for E.J. Arthur, renovations of the kitchen, renovations of all the second floor classrooms with air conditioning. Same scope at both elementary schools. Under the physical education and athletics category, providing a multi-purpose synthetic turf playfield, which you'll see a larger view of in a bit. And under the infrastructure category, at the middle school, high school, replacing failing areas of water piping, plumbing piping, and valves. Providing air conditioning to the second floor classrooms, so all of the second floor classrooms at the middle school and at the high school would receive air conditioning. And then providing some roof replacement isolated areas at the 2000 vintage building. At E.J. Arthur, replacing some failing plumbing issues here as well, and rewiring the building to better support technology, moving to Cat 6 cabling. And lastly, under the site work category, at the main campus, we have pavement improvements to replace the parking lot at the middle school and the access drive to that. That's the drive that runs along the playfields and that large parking lot back by the middle school gym. And then development at the corner lot for a grass baseball field and soccer field. So this is kind of tied into the PE and athletics too, but it ended up here in the site work category. Under Coxsackie Elementary School, we have some stormwater management issues that we're resolving over on the elementary school side of the building. Sorry, the slides get really wonky here, something with the conversion, my apologies, but reconstruction of the basketball play area and replacing and widening the sidewalk along the path, extending sidewalks around the playground area and upgrading for ADA or handicapped accessibility there, and then replacing playground for full accessibility with the play surface there. At this complex, we're reconstructing the basketball play area, replacing an additional structure at the playground, and resurfacing the tennis courts, as well as adding game lines for pickleball to better support the entire Coxsackie-Athens community. So we're going to take a closer look at just a few of these highlighted scope areas in a little bit greater detail. So under that academic and program area, renovation of the 3 science classrooms. You can see that's in that front left corner of the building. These are vintage 70s science classrooms. You can see the condition of some of these areas for the sink and the cabinetry in these buildings. This would be a full renovation, so floors, ceilings, wall-to-wall replacement of all the cabinetry, and really updating these facilities for better student performance. If we want to support academic learning at Coxsackie-Athens, we need to provide facilities that support that. So this will be a modernization of these classrooms reflective of the education that you're providing here. Next, we look at a proposed addition for a fitness center and public restrooms. This is a proposed addition off of the middle school gym facing the field and the large parking lot there. Oriented from your plan a little bit here, just a closer look at what that fitness center could look like, providing access from both the vestibule and the exterior to better support community use, as well as providing restrooms off the corner there that would have an exterior entrance. So this fitness center is, again, you'll see an overarching theme of providing improvements to wellness for staff, students, and community use. And this fitness center is another great example of that, where we're providing space for physical education classes to use, for athletic teams to use, as well as the ability to support your community with improved fitness center access. I know that's something the district is starting to do now, but your community is entering your building and you're actually compromising security potentially by letting them come fully into the building. This provides an easier access with limited security issues, as well as providing public restrooms for use at the fitness center, as well as any of your field events now would have access to public restrooms as well. And then we're taking a look at the proposed wellness suite. So this is taking over 3 current classrooms in the center of the main campus. And this is a closer look at the proposed wellness suite, again, oriented a little bit on the page here. But really the goal here is to provide better mental health facilities for your students here. Currently, their mental health wellness is being supported by psychologists, social workers, mental health professionals that are scattered throughout the campus. Some are in offices underneath stairwells, and they are really isolated and really don't have privacy. So if a student is needing one of those resources, everyone knows exactly where they're going because they are just in these singular isolated locations. So this is providing a condensed location where the mental health professionals can share resources and better support the students that use these spaces in a welcoming area that supports that socio-emotional learning, as well as providing their space for private offices, open offices, conference rooms, sensory spaces, and just better improved support in your approach to how wellness and mental health is addressed here on campus. And this is for use for middle school and high school. Next, looking at the second floor classrooms at Coxsackie Elementary. Again, this is that wing where we would be renovating these classrooms. So again, this is a full renovation, floor to ceiling, wall to wall renovation, inclusive of air conditioning to better provide facilities for the students. So modernization of these classrooms and furniture. And then the same thing here for the second floor classrooms at Edward J. Arthur. Moving on to the athletic and PE. This is the proposed multi-purpose synthetic turf playfield. Again, another example of how we're improving student wellness because we are allowing physical education to access outdoor facilities more frequently. When you have grass playfields, we know weather is restrictive, and when there's rain and it's sitting and there's stormwater issues, those classes are not able to get out on those playfields. With the synthetic turf field, your classes are getting out there far more frequently and getting that fresh air and the ability to move around. This is also providing athletic space for your athletic teams. What's proposed is a multi-purpose playfield of synthetic turf that supports softball, baseball, and a multi-purpose soccer, football, field hockey field, as well as stormwater improvements in that entire area. And then additionally to that, improvements to the area on the other side of, you guys call it the power line, what do you guys call that? I'm sorry, I always forget. The tree line, on the other side of the tree line at the corner lot, developing those grass play fields for additional baseball and soccer fields. These two improvements combined are enabling your modified JV and varsity sports to all be hosted on campus and give them all more playing time. Additionally, under the site work category, replacement of the parking lot and the access drive along those fields towards the middle school gym. And then a variety of site work improvements proposed on the other side of campus. So you see here a few locations of stormwater management issues that are being addressed, as well as the sidewalk along the path and the playground at Coxsackie Elementary. Moving on to infrastructure, these are the second floor classrooms for both the middle school and high school to receive air conditioning. And that wraps up just a high-level overview of any of the potential scope. I'll go over the estimate real quick, and then if Mr. Palmer can join me for a financial impact overview. So again, these are our 5 categories, these scope prices that are assigned to each one of those, leading to a total proposed capital project cost of $29,415,000. All yours, Mr. Palmer.
So with the proposal, $29,415,000, we are suggesting to use $1 million out of reserves. We are eligible for a 71% building aid ratio. So that bringing that local share really to that 28,415,000 after you subtract out our reserve amount. Tax impact would be about 86 cents per thousand. So 86 cents per thousand would be the tax impact of this project.
I do have the full chart if you need it, but I don't know if you need it. Good.
Thank you.
And just a quick overview of the project schedule. You can see in the light gray here, these are the things that have occurred to date. We're leading up to tonight's resolution to vote. We're all working towards that December 12th public referendum vote. And then once that passes, you see here the post-referendum schedule. This is really the actual schedule for developing the project. We have a design phase that would take us several months. So starting in December of this year, going through August of next year to develop those construction documents or blueprints, as you may refer to them. Then everything gets submitted to the State Education Department for their review and approval. They are the jurisdiction that issues the building permit. We have a bidding and contract award for those contractors that runs between January and February of 2025. Construction would then start in the spring of 2025 and run through September of 2026. The project close out by the end of that calendar year in 2026. And that is all.
First off, I just want to acknowledge and thank the Pickett family for the donation of the t-shirts for the volleyball team, varsity volleyball team. A letter of thanks will be going out on behalf of the board and the school district for that. Thank them for their support there. The second item on my report is just for information for the board, some recent site visits that staff have taken, just different schools in that regard, and bringing back items that they've learned or practices that they want to take a little bit more look at as we in our own schools in that regard. So those are for your information, those two pages for that. Motorized vehicles on school grounds. This has come up more so recently, specifically in regards to motorized scooters and the bicycles. And there's, people have noticed an uptick in the amount of kids using these vehicles on school grounds, oftentimes at high rates of speed, and sometimes coming very close to getting into some serious accidents. So what we'd like to do is have the policy committee look at some potential changes to our policy regarding student transportation or student driving vehicles, or the policy in regards to when school kids can drive cars to school. We think that policy would be the one we might want to add some additional language here, specifically reminding kids that they're supposed to be wearing a helmet when they're on those vehicles, and also speed limits. But by having that in the policy, that will allow the administration to forbid kids who violate traffic law on campus to keep their motorized scooters and bikes at home. Questions on that? Think about the policy.
Did I saw in some notes about the motorized vehicles that the way I interpreted it is that the police do not know if there's a minimum age requirement on this. Is that what I saw?
That's correct. We met as a district-wide safety committee, and that question was asked. They were unaware of a minimum age requirement for that to operate an electric-powered scooter and or bicycle.
But there is traffic law for wearing a helmet.
And obeying traffic laws if they're going to be riding in traffic.
And is there going to be has there been any discussion yet on how we're going to be educating our students on any changes in the policy?
Yeah, so I think that would go to our safety committees first in the buildings, and then feather out into the buildings from there as far as incorporate that into our general, like we do the bike rodeos at the schools each year, so we included that piece for the younger kids, but also educate our middle and high school kids, who are the ones right now, generally, the ones on the high-speed scooters and bikes.
What is the high speed of one of those? I don't know.
I don't know, but over the summer, I know I was here and they were riding it around on the soccer field, like doing donuts on the middle of the soccer field, and we had to scream at them to, we didn't, we were just like, hey, can you not do that? Go on the road, and they were like, oh, sorry. I don't think they realized Henry Hudson was, doing stuff, but I can't imagine, and they didn't have phones on, so I mean, but I don't know if just updating a policy is gonna change that.
Well, it's just one step. It gives us the authority to do more with it, as far as enforcing it or involving law enforcement if necessary as well. Provides the administration that authority. But you're right, you have a policy for anything, you have to enforce it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll speak of policy. I just wanted to provide an update on our policy book. As you know, it's going back to when it was just everybody had their big 9-inch binder sitting in your homes to now where we've had it on our website. It's for a better way of saying, it's been a little bit scattered among. It's on the website, but there's been a lot of updates, and those updates have not transferred to the website, et cetera. Over the last couple of years, as we've had a couple of district clerks, et cetera. Right, so I've tasked Julie and Marissa in the district office to go through all our policies that we have, all old versions, et cetera, just to make sure that we have the most up-to-date policy that will be going public. So they completed that task actually last week with that. So now we have we believe it's the most updated policy book. It's organized, alphabetized, indexed, et cetera, and paper, but it will certainly be in digital. So the next step, and we don't have a date yet on this, but then the policy book will now be put on Word docs. Right? So everybody here, of course, will have access, the public will have access to it. And it's just a matter of, you click on, you're in Word docs, you have a little magnifying glass there. You click on it, you can just type in either the number of the policy, if you have to know it, or just type in policy, dress code, something like that, or code of conduct, and it'll come right up for you to find that, and it'll take you right to the policy section. It'll also be a page within Word docs that anybody can go to read all those policies. So that'll be happening as soon as Word docs get back to us on the process we need to use to give them all those files for that. So it's been a long drag because, again, there was several different folders, Google folders, paper folders, et cetera. We just had to go back and cross-reference to a past board meeting to see if those policies in fact were approved or not, et cetera, for that. It's kind of jumbled up, so they did a nice job with that. It was good to have many sets of eyes on it in that regard. So.
Yeah, the website, I'm looking at it right now, looks much better than what it did, like organizational, so that's a good first step, I'd say.
Yeah,
You go right on there,
right, and that's not even half as good as what it will be.
Well, yeah,
right,
but it's much better than what it was.
There's something missing on the website.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Next slide, please.
Billboard. So I want to take some time to go through our pilot data, the information that we have thus far. I decided, because there's a lot of data to throw at you, to divide it. Tonight I'm going to talk specifically about our ELA pilots because we're going to be making a decision on those sooner. We do have the one math pilot that is just, it's an intervention, whole class intervention program that we're using, and that'll be a decision as to whether or not we're going to continue with that closer to the end of the year. So today we're going to talk about ELA. So the first thing I wanted to do, and I'm going to walk you through it so you know what you're looking at in the different ways that we look at it. So we just gave our universal screener, so again, that's Fastbridge that we use. So we gave that, and I wanted to kind of show you our information, how we ended the year and how we began the year. Because one of the things that we really talked about among the staff was to see if our pilots are working really well. We, wanted to see where the kids started at the beginning of last year and how they ended the year based on the different pilots they were in. This is all of our student data all together, but I'll show you on future slides what it looks like for each pilot. But then we also wanted to see but do they retain the information? So if they grow terrifically during the year, do they then keep all that fabulous skill set and come in the next year with that skill set? To see that, you have to look at information by cohort. So when you're taking a look at this, you'll see that it's all nicely color-coded. So when you look at this, you'll see that the kindergarten came in, they were reading 49% of the students at or above benchmark. When they ended in the spring, 66 of our kindergartners were at or above benchmark. When that same cohort came in this fall, 51% of the students were at or above benchmark. So you see how I went across on this part of the chart, and then you go down one to see what the cohort looks like. It's color-coded, so the cohort should follow the same color. There was a little bit of nuance for some reason with this color versus that color, but so this is the information for the whole grade levels. So this is what we usually have been looking at each year when we show you our links plans and we say, this is how we're doing in kindergarten, first and second. And then we do our overalls. So we break it down, kindergarten and first. They take the early reading assessment, so it's a slightly different assessment than what second grade through 8th grade takes. That's why we divide it up by that. But again, when you have nothing better to do when you're hanging out at home, you can go ahead and look through this chart. This is our information on how we did last year and how we started this year. So then from there, we did comparisons at the end of last year. So these are going to be a lot of data, and I'm going to walk you through it because we entrusted, and so I have to say a huge thank you to Tom Guile. Tom is our data guy. I don't know if everyone is aware, but Tom did a fellowship. We actually did it across 2 summers with IBM, where he did risk management. So he did it at a company level, taking data and trying to project out what would be the benefit of staying with something or switching to something else. So he really knows what he's doing in this area. So big thank you to Tom, because I could never have done all this with him. So he showed it in a variety of different ways. I'm going to walk you through both. I'll tell you which way I prefer, but that's just my brain. So this is a lovely chart. What this chart is going to tell you is in growth, kids get different percentiles. So if I'm a student and I show terrific growth, the kind of growth that closes a gap, I'm going to be at the 70th percentile or higher. So really what we're looking at for gap closing is how many kids got that 70% or higher, because what that's telling you is they made more than a year's worth of growth from the fall to the spring. We also look at the 50% and 60th percentile. That's good growth, that's typical growth area, so that tells you the kids grew well. It's not gap closing growth, but it still tells you that a program is working fairly well. Anything under the 50th percentile tells you that those kids are not making enough growth to stay as good, quote unquote, as they are currently. They're actually starting to lose ground a little bit. So we don't want to see the stuff down underneath. So Tom broke it down. So in kindergarten, we used RGR, CKLA, and the NIP stands for Not in Pilot. Those are students who worked just with the Lucy Calkins, which we have been working on over the last, I want to say 7 years. So those staff members did not pilot anything new. We had 1 staff member who did the CKLA, and we had 2 kindergartners who did the RGR program. So you'll see from the graph.
Can you remind us what the RGR program stands for?
Really great reading.
And the other?
CKLA, it's core knowledge, language, or arts. So RGR, just as a reminder too, so RGR is a very specific phonics program. It just is really working with phonics. CKLA is a comprehensive program, so it has a phonics component, but it also has a reading component and a writing component. So at the end of the year, all these bars kind of show you where everybody was at. So again, this is for kindergarten. So what we really needed to do was look at it across all the different grade levels that worked on it. So that was kindergarten. Now I'm going to show you, this is how I prefer to look at the data. I know a lot of people like bar charts, but I like these because these show me the numbers. So again, we're concentrating in on that 70th percentile up to 100. how many kids got that? So I highlighted that, so I kind of take a look and say, okay, RGR, when we had 3 in that 70th range, so that would be 70 to 79th percentile, but then we really didn't have a whole lot up above that. Over in the CKLA, we had the students were kind of evenly spread across, and then the not in pilot students were kind of evenly spread across. So then we take a look at, we go back to that idea of typical growth plus the aggressive growth. Am I standing backwards? I see people turning over there. So the other way we took a look at it was to say, all right, if we're looking at that 50th percentile, you'll see down here, above 50th percentile for the students who were in the really great reading, you had 46% of those students made 50th or above in terms of growth. If you look at CKLA, 91% of the students made 50th percentile or above. So again, that's not necessarily as indicative of the terrific aggressive growth that we were looking for, but it does show there was some pretty good growth in that area. And then the students who weren't in the pilot were at 47.8. So I prefer this chart, but that's the different ways that we take a look at it. First grade, same kind of breakdown, we just have a few different programs in first grade. So again, we had first grade teachers who were piloting the really great reading. Fun is foundations. Tom abbreviated SADLIER for SAD, which I always feel bad about because it's not a SAD program, it's a very nice program. But that is SADLIER, which again, these 3 are all specifically phonics programs. They are not comprehensive programs. So again, you can kind of see how all the different programs scored. And again, we go back to my very nice chart, so you can see really great reading, that 50th and above is only 24%. The foundations was 71%, and sadly it was 33%. Second grade, we had really great reading, foundations, sadly are in U-Fly. So again, you can see all of our graphing there. And then this one you can see, so the really great reading was 62%, foundations was 46%, sadly was 73%, and U-Fly was 86.7%. Oh, sorry, U-Fly is also phonics.
Okay,
So these are all phonics. The only comprehensive program we looked at last year was the CKLA. Heggerty was a phonics program that we were already using in kindergarten, so it wasn't part of the pilots. Oh, I missed a bar graph. So this is third grade. You don't get the fun bar graph. I don't know. I must have lost it in my slide deck. But, so third grade had CKLA, which was a comprehensive program, or the not in pilot. So you'll see there with the 50th percentile or above is 49% versus 46%, so pretty even progress in terms of which program they were in a program or not in a program. In fourth grade, the entire fourth grade did CKLA last year, so they were at 41.9%. So that was how we did last year, just to kind of give you an idea of what we did at the end of the year last year. The teachers, during the whole course of the year, we had pilot meetings monthly. So each administrator took a different pilot group, and we would meet with them and talk about how things were going and how they felt the program was working. At the end of the year, we showed them their data first, talked through what they saw and what they thought about keeping the program or getting rid of the program. From those conversations, the really great reading people really felt that their program was not giving them the benefit that they thought it was going to give them, and really didn't feel like they wanted to continue it. The foundations people felt that the data from U-Fly looked better than their data, so they wanted to move to trying the U-Fly program for this year. So both really great reading and foundations were removed from the pilot program, and teachers could choose to go to U-Fly. The other thing that happened at the end of the school year was that we had the one comprehensive program, which was CKLA. Teachers had, if you go back to the year before last year, did have an opportunity to look through a variety of programs when we had that ELA fair. There was a program that was not available at that time, and that program is called Benchmark Advanced, which is now going to confuse you a lot when I talk about benchmark scores and benchmark advanced. But that's why they call it benchmark, because they're trying to get kids to meet benchmark. That program wasn't available, they were still working on it, it was in the research stage, so it was not on the What Works Clearinghouse, which is what we used as part of our way to see if something was an appropriate research-based program. So because that wasn't part and available before, we did give people the opportunity to look at that program in June. Some teachers asked to check it out further. There was a professional development second week, I believe, of July. So we do have some teachers who are piloting Benchmark for this year, so that is a new addition. So we got rid of 2, but then we added 1, if you're keeping track. So comparisons. So we took a look, now we've given our Bass Bridge in the fall. How are we doing? And the data was pretty interesting. So what Tom did here is instead of those bar graphs, what he tried to look at was, okay, when they went from fall of 2022 to fall of 2023, what was their increase? So that was the beginning of last year to right here, right now. How many kids increased in terms of what percentile they were at with Benchmark? So you will see that all the students in first grade, so the reason we're starting with first grade is the kindergartners were in ours last year for the purposes of a pilot. Some of them were in ours for pre-K. But so we're going to start with looking at the first grade. These are the kids who were with us at kindergarten. So the fall 2022 score was their kindergarten score. We're now looking at where are they the beginning of first grade. So when you look at all the students as a whole, 25% of the students increased, looking at the grade level as a complete whole, and 45% of those, let's see that bar down there, always. So I can tell you what the numbers, I believe off the top of my head is 29. Yep. It is 29, so if this bar wasn't here, you would see that there's a 29 down here. So basically, the CKLA students, 45% of those students increased their score, and the not in pilot students, 29% of those students increased their score. And then this, again, was from the end of the school year to the beginning of the school year, so we had that data as well. So you'll see here, 25% of the students increased their score from spring to fall. 10% of the CKLA students increased from spring to fall. And 15% is down over here. It's another piece of data that helps us see, is it successful holding on to skills as well?
So the non-program carry was just what everybody did before that?
Is Lucy, yes. So what we said is, if you're not piloting something, you have to stick with what we have been doing. So we did the same thing with second grade. So you'll see the all students was 59, foundations was 25, the Sadlier was 67, similar numbers, 58 to 44 to 67. I removed really great reading because you didn't need that piece of data because it's not something that we are continuing on with. This is the third grade data. I want to read you the U-Fly because it's not, you can't see it on here, but there was an increase of 80% of the students who were in second grade last year coming into third grade this year, which was terrific. This is one of our best years showing growth. So the foundation students had 78, the Sadlier students had 77, 93. So this was one of the pieces of data. They didn't have this at the end of last year, but U-Fly was really showing us that it moved kids substantially. So this was a 93% increase, which was great. Take a look at the numbers over here. You got 63, 67, 62, and 43. Right, so that's going from the end of the year to the fall. But again, what I would tell you about this number down here, because the 43 doesn't sound quite as impressive, but the kids ended the school year extremely high. The thing to note about U-Fly is it was one teacher last year. So we have more teachers using U-Fly this year, so we're going to be interested to see, was it one teacher just doing a really, really great job, or is it a terrific program? Come on. There we go. Fourth grade, so again, this is going to be kids who either did CKLA or not in a pilot. So you'll see it kind of looked similar. The increase from spring to fall was only 15% for the not in pilot, but other than that, the numbers looked fairly consistent. 5th grade, everybody did CKLA, so you'll just see there was a 51% increase from the fall to the fall and a 52% increase from spring to fall. All right, so this gets us to the meat of the subject matter. How are we going to pick? When are we going to pick? Because you guys don't want to hear me talk about pilots anymore. All right, so let's talk about the completed steps. So as I mentioned, we had our monthly pilot meetings. We're going to continue those through the year. That helps us kind of calibrate what everybody, Ms. Martinez like that, anyway. Calibrate what everybody's working on and making sure we're doing the programs to fidelity. Because the only way to know if it works is if we're truly implementing the program as it's designed to be done. We also had ELA panel meetings throughout the year last year. We will have ELA panel meetings through this year as well. That's then an opportunity. We get anybody is invited that would like to come. It gives us an opportunity to talk through what all the different pilots are working on and talk about our timeline and concerns and important things. So last year we had the staff who were piloting programs presented their midpoint data and kind of gave a sales pitch for their program if they were in support of it. At the end of the year, as I've already mentioned, we reviewed, we got rid of a few, added one. Then in September, the ELA panel got together again to discuss our timeline. October 6th, we did the review of the data that I just went over, which is the how are the kids doing coming into the school year. So what are our steps remaining? Again, we'll continue the monthly pilot meetings. In February, like we did last year. Now, last year we did it on a conference day, but this year we're going to do it working our way through PLPs. We're going to go over what our midpoint data says in terms of how all these programs are doing. So we'll review last year's data, the fall data, and the winter data and say, okay, what is this telling us about our programs? After that presentation, we're going to send surveys out that I'm working on with the ELA panel, so that teachers can tell us what they thought about the programs that they themselves are piloting, plus what they heard about the data if they're not somebody piloting. And then in March, we'll convene the ELA panel to review all of that data and make recommendations as to what program or programs, because sometimes we'll take a look, there might be a phonics program that we might want to incorporate with a comprehensive program. And so we'll figure all that out by the end of March, because that means we've got to plan some professional development for implementation that we can do hopefully May, we got some half days, maybe June. So that was a very long-winded answer, but I want to end with this. We are not alone in our piloting and trying to figure out what to do, so I wanted to show you some awesome data from a neighbor. I did not put their name on the slide because they didn't tell me I could publicly share the slide with my board, but they had shared it with theirs. But a neighbor, they did the similar process, but they picked their program and they were implementing it full scale, kindergarten through 3rd grade last year. They used the iReady instead of the FastBridge, but they started out, so in spring of 2022, this was their percent proficiency rate on iReady with just 1 year. And the idea behind this was that the principal and the staff were bought in, excited, did the program to fidelity. The program that they picked brought their scores up to, in just 1 year, 73, 62, 66, and 62. So it just goes to show you, if we can get everybody excited and by having everyone have a chance to pilot and really see what the data is saying, we're hoping that it will get people bought in, excited about the program, and understanding when you do it to fidelity, you can see huge growth like this. When you don't have everybody consistently working on a program together, that's when you just can't quite make this kind of a leap. Because kids really do need that consistency and that understanding from year to year. This is how it flows, this is how it works. So that was just very exciting. That was shared at a meeting that I was at earlier in the month. So I was like, ooh, I'm going to steal that and I'll put it in my slide. I will tell you.
iReady is a different program than pilot.
Yeah, iReady is a different universal screener. So iReady is not curriculum. Well, they have a curriculum component, but they're not using the curriculum component.
But you use FastBridge.
We use FastBridge, yes. But the iReady does pretty much the same thing in terms of telling you where the kids are. I do. So they were working between CKLA and Benchmark. If you'd like to know which one this, but I don't want to taint the pool. I want our teachers to figure out what works best.
It would be good to have Questar, you know,
Is it-
as a bank that would have the information, because they're doing a lot of work that other people
Can steal.
can benefit, just like.
Absolutely. I really think at the end of the day, all of the programs have a lot of benefits to them. It really, and it's why I believe so strongly in giving people an opportunity to pilot things. I think it really comes down to if the teachers really believe in it and they're gonna implement it completely and wholeheartedly, I think you see great growth. I think where you struggle is when people feel like somebody else picked it and they got stuck with it. So we're really trying to work on that process. That's why the ELA panel is open to anyone who wants to go to the meetings, because I want everybody to have a say in it. Because again, I don't believe it's necessarily one program is light years above another program. Obviously, we have some data that says for us, a couple of the programs were a little bit more successful than the others. But again, those were smaller pools of people. I totally overwhelmed with data.
Is there a math component?
There is not a math component to any of these programs, but I will next month hit you with all the math data. The only thing that we're looking at in terms of math, so it's very different than the ELA pilot, the spring math is just an intervention program. It is not a curriculum. There's no classroom, scope and sequence type of thing to go along with that. So that will always need to have a separate curriculum that goes with it. So we could use that while doing the modules, which is what we currently use, or if we took Eureka Math and did it, or Everyday Math. So we might end up looking at a different curriculum program for math, but right now the pilot we have going on is just the intervention program, and seeing if that works.
Carrie, how long have we been piloting all these programs?
We're in our second year, so we started last year. It feels like a lot longer, I'm sure, because we picked things to pilot the year before in the spring. So we had the fair, and well, first we started in 21, 22. We started the year finding out what all the other school districts, similar to what Mike was saying, reached out to BOCES and other school districts and said, what do you got? So we made a long list of the different programs that were available. We created a fair for our teachers to be able to come in and put their hands on all that different material and say, oh, this one looks great, I think I want to try this, or this one looks terrible, I want to try that. They also had an opportunity, there were some connections with teachers in other districts that they wanted to speak to them about what the process was like implementing it. So that started the year before last year, but the actual piloting and working with kids with the materials started last fall.
And what was the process like, let's say, 5 years ago?
When we went back and did Lucy, what occurred there is, so Lucy was really the only one that we piloted. So I'm using that as kind of, the rollout didn't go as well as we would like it to have gone. And I really think it was because we didn't look at a bunch of different ones. We heard a lot of people were using Lucy. So we were like, okay, well, let's bring Lucy and see if people liked it. So we brought it back, and some people really liked it, some people didn't. We did do a survey at that time, but it was, all right, do you want to do it or you don't want to do it? And majority ruled. And the majority said they did want to do it, but for that particular process, we just didn't have something else we were comparing it to. So we're hoping that this time around, because we have things to compare it to, it gives people a little bit more of a possibility to say, all right, I did look at everything that was out there, and this is the best one for the district and this as well.
Thank you, Carrie.
The tax collection season with our new tax collector, Marissa Kamai. We have already seen 4 tax refunds due to assessment challenges, grievances that were approved by the assessor's office. You'll see those in the approval areas later on in the agenda. In addition to those 3 refunds, we were also made aware of 3 corrections that needed to be made. The correction needed to be made as Athens went through the reassessment process, when the assessment rolls were submitted to the district, there were 3 properties that don't pay taxes on there, public libraries and such. And we were notified after the fact that that would be lost revenue to us. They should not have been on there when submitted to us. They've since been taken off so that they won't appear on there next year. That lost revenue totaled about $8,700. Any questions on the tax collections? And I do have some good news. CEP, if you remember this time last year, we were talking about our CEP options. We were just below the 40% threshold to get partial reimbursements for our meals. But we're in a situation where the general fund had to be the sole supplier for the remaining funds, which was something that was not budgeted for because we were 100% CEP the year before. The good news is this past summer, the governor's budget proposal did include funds to subsidize schools to pay that remaining percent. And in addition to that, CEP lowered the percentage from 40% to 25%. We in the district at a 30.52 rate percentage do qualify for that. We've already submitted our application. We've already been in contact with Child Nutrition. We are in the process of uploading required documents and hope to get this thing off the ground in due time. The way that it works, and they have reminded this to us multiple times, if we are approved on November 2nd, we need to wait until the 1st of the following month in order to start with free meals. So in theory, once we get everything through, every student in our school district should have free meals. Okay? Any questions on CEP?
How long does that go for?
It's 1 year. So, well, let me rephrase that part. So the budget allocation is for 1 year. There are many people that are hard pressed to believe that this would be a 1 year thing and then go away. But it would be a portion of the governor's budget every year. So if it gets renewed and we still qualify, we would then, again, be a benefactor for it. The CEP eligibility, I believe, is a 4-year window. So because we're below, or I'm sorry, because we meet that 25% threshold now at 30.52, I believe we would qualify for the next 4 years for free meals. Whether or not the state can kick in the additional partial reimbursement or not will determine whether or not we can continue supplying free meals to students for those the next 4 years. And that would be something that we would have discussions typically in the August board meeting when we go to approve the meal prices. Okay?
Is there any variable, you submitted the application,
Yes.
so is there any variable that would get in the way of approval at this point? Or is the numbers just there?
The numbers are there. I mean, they do get reviewed just for accuracy. They did ask us some questions on the pre-K students because some of the students are cycled through Circle of Friends as opposed to through our in-house classrooms. So through a discussion with Child Nutrition, things seem to be fine otherwise. So we're still awaiting a more direct response on that Circle of Friends outcome and what that means for us. So we're right on top of it. A big thank you to Mary DiStefano, our food service director, for really spearheading this. And I think about 10 minutes after we were told we could do this, the application was in. So, right on top of it. District-wide Safety Committee, we did meet. I did attach some of the snippets from our meeting right in the agenda for you guys to review. A couple things I did want to highlight, and we will be sending out a public correspondence in the near future as well. On Monday of next week, we will have the EJA evacuation drill. We are evacuating to our evacuation location. We've met multiple times with different portions of the staff to make sure everybody knows their job. That will take place for EJA on Monday of next week, and then for the Coxsackie campus, it will take place on Wednesday of next week, and the rain date for both of them would be November 1st. I'm going to skip the electric bikes and scooters unless anybody had any follow-up questions on that, just because we already talked about it. Okay. Radios, they have arrived. They've been distributed. They've been collected again. They've been distributed. They've been collected again. We're in the programming phases of that. We're we do want to have those available for next week's evacuation drills. And the last thing that's not on your agenda that I did want to point out is, and Ina pointed out earlier, the playground out there, the bane of my existence, is finally up and usable. I do want to thank Mr. Martino, Mr. Petramali, the entire Athens community for their patience in all this, and your patience with all of this. It has not been easy, and I hope to never work with that ever again. So, those are my updates. Any questions?